Hello there. Can you feel the anger out there against our political masters? I can. The anger throbs from Twitter and drips like blood from the newspaper and social media comment sections. The trouble is that the political elite is not listening, and in fact, it does not care. You can feel it in the air. More and more people are turning against their governments and against those supranational bodies like the United Nations and the World Economic Forum that purport to be our superiors in every way. But worse, the ordinary little people are catching on that voting in the ordinary way no longer fixes anything. All it does is bolsters the system and those faceless bureaucrats that infest it. And everything that emanates from such a system does nothing to improve the lives of ordinary people. No, all the proles get is more laws to obey, more controls placed on them, while more and more money is extracted from them, whoever they vote for. Because the people they vote for hold no real power, or they exercise it against their voters, as must be obvious to all by now. Right now, farmers are bringing the European Union to a grinding halt. They are worried about the future of agriculture and the futures of their farms and their livelihoods. All because an overbearing political system, from the UN and the WEF down to local councils, are seemingly determined to wipe those farms from the face of the earth. The farmers have had enough. But is the European Union bureaucracy listening to them? Well, here's the EU Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, speaking at a special meeting of the EU Council a few days ago.
Honourable members, while the European Council was in session, farmers from across Europe were taking to the streets. Many of them feel pushed into a corner. Farmers are the first in line feeling the effects of climate change. Droughts and floods have destroyed their harvest and threatened their livestock. Farmers are feeling the impact of the Russian war, inflation, the rising costs of energy, the rising costs of fertilizers. Nevertheless, they work hard every day to produce the quality food we eat. And for this, I think we owe them appreciations and thanks and respect. Our farmers deserve to be listened to. I know that they are worried about the future of agriculture and about their future as farmers. But they also know that agriculture needs to move to a more sustainable model of production so that their farms remain profitable in the years to come. And we want to make sure that in this process, the farmers remain in the driving seat. And this is why we launched the strategic dialogue on the future of agriculture in the European Union. We have invited a broad scope of representatives of the farming sectors, the young farmers, the rural communities, the seed and fertilizer industry, the food sector, the processing sector, but also the financial sector, the cooperative banking sector, the consumers and environmental groups, and of course, science. Europe has the healthiest and the highest quality food in the world, thanks to our farmers. And we know that 60 to 70% of soils in Europe are now in poor condition. We can reverse these trends, and many farmers are precisely doing that, but we need to do more. Now, effective nature protection must offer generous incentives for intervening. Farmers need a worthwhile business case for nature-enhancing measures. Perhaps we have not made that case convincingly. A real incentive that goes beyond mere loss of yields is required. Public subsidies can provide those incentives and, for example, premium labelling in cooperation with retailers and processors. In other words, nature conservation can only be successful through a bottom-up and incentive-based approach. Because only if our farmers can live off their land will they invest in the future, and only if we achieve our climate and environmental goals together will farmers be able to continue to make a living.
Lots of applause for the farmers, lots of praise for the farmers. But does it sound to you like they are going to change their course one single iota? I love the concept of maybe we haven't explained it properly. After all those years, meaning no doubt that we need to shout louder at farmers. Does it sound to you like all they'll actually be doing is producing more paperwork and more consultations that ultimately do not alter the course of the net zero supertanker by even 1/10 of a degree? That's all I heard. Ursula von der Leyen talking about more dialogue, more stakeholder involvement, more of the same, with all the usual management speak and lots of it. I'll also tell you what a lot of it sounds like to me. That the EU taxpayer will find itself on the hook for a hugely expensive buy-off of farmers. Farmers will be paid handsomely for lower yields. The Bureaucrats have got to the point where bullying no longer works. It's backfiring on them. So they're going to put the stick aside for a while and replace it with the carrot. The carrot of taxpayer money for producing less food. You can see it coming a mile off. Sounds to me like they'll get the big EU imperial checkbook out and keep signing away money until the farmers are happy to go along with the EU destruction of food production. As far as these people are concerned, a third of all our ecological problems derives from agriculture. Therefore, slashing farming ever further towards zero will save the planet. They got to a certain point with reams of new rules and regulations that have forced many farmers to the wall and out of business. Now comes the inevitable time to get the already hard-stretched taxpayer to fork out to shut it down by sheer large-scale bribery. They will buy the farmers off, or attempt to. The EU will dangle taxpayer money in front of farmers' noses to get them to convert from being farmers into becoming the new park wardens, the guardians of the rewilded habitats. The poachers will be bribed with your money to become the gamekeepers. While agricultural yields fall, so putting availability of homegrown meat, dairy and fresh veg at severe risk. The taxpayer will be forking out to make its own food less available and more expensive. Unless, of course, you opt to buy mealworms and dung beetle-based foods. Or maybe that factory-manufactured fake meat and dairy that they've been trying their best to flog to the public for the last few years, all to no avail because no one wants it while good, fresh, natural food is available to them. But what happens when good, natural, wholesome foods become too scarce and expensive, to the point that only self-appointed bureaucrats and multimillionaires can afford it, or even know where or who to source it from? What then? That's the point these overlords want to reach, when the little proles accept their fate and queue up at the bug food and frankenfood markets. Oh, and if you think, I'll just grow my own veg then, or keep a few chickens, etc. Sorry, but that will end up on the eco-crime list. Yes, first the production of home produce will be drowned in red tape, and then, in the end, it will be deemed as inefficient use of global resources, etc. They do not want people being self-sufficient in any way. The establishment, whatever that is looking for control, and using the food supply is probably the most effective means of doing that. At the end of the day, our political masters have a goal, and the only listening they will do in pursuit of that goal is to listen out for ways of either bulldozing over, blackmailing, or bribing the relevant people into compliance. They are not concerned with our concerns. They are only concerned with big power, big money, their own livelihoods, and their political legacies. And for some of them, it's all about their family dynasties. They want to pass on as much of the planet Earth to their heirs as they possibly can. Just check out those multi-billionaires. But worse, for some, there is a definite anti-human demonic reason for what they do.